What's up, guys? It's Ian here, back today with the weekly training roundup with voiceover for the week of February 7th, 2022 through February 13th, 2022. This is the second week of my 8-week program that I recently designed, and today I'm going to go over day 1 for you. This is a push-focused weighted calisthenics day where my primary exercise is the weighted dip. And in the weighted dip, I start off with a top single at 87.5%. My top single today is the same weight as my top single from last week. I warmed up with 1 set of support shrugs. It's pretty cold in here. Then I did 1 set of body weight dips, 1 set of dips with 45 pounds, 1 set of dips with 75 pounds, and then my top set is with 95 pounds on the belt for a combined weight of roughly 227 pounds. I weigh between 135 pounds and 140 pounds. So the combined weight is roughly 87.5% of my 1 repetition max. This felt pretty good. That top single was pretty manageable. It moved fast, and I feel like I definitely have a lot more in me. After I hit that top single at 87.5%, I performed 3 sets of 6 repetitions on the weighted dip with just 60 pounds on the belt. So there you see a 45-pound plate, a pair of 5-pound plates, and a pair of 2.5-pound plates to total up to 60 pounds. Maybe a little bit more if you include the weight of the chain on the dip belt, but this was roughly an additional 60 pounds for a combined weight of roughly 195 pounds, or 75% of my 1 repetition max. So the change between this week and last week was that the weight on my back down sets of weighted dips went up, but my top set stayed the same. It can be a good strategy to either increase your top set or your back down sets. Sometimes it's a bit too demanding to increase your top set and your back down sets all at the same time. So if you want to be more conservative, try out just increasing either your top set or your back down sets, but maybe not both, unless you're really sure that you can tolerate increasing both at the same time. Moving on, I performed 4 sets of 8 repetitions of the bodyweight overhand grip pull-up, with my bodyweight representing about 70% of my estimated 1 repetition max on the overhand grip pull-up. After the bodyweight pull-ups today, I performed my steady state cycles for the advanced tuck front lever. Today, I performed my 1 minute of cumulative hold time in 3 separate sets. I'll see in post-production exactly how close I was to 1 minute of actual hold time. Either way, these felt pretty good. Milder variation that I can hold in that 20 to 30 second range. I'm just focusing on really depressing the shoulders, maybe a little bit retracting the shoulders, but mostly depressing the shoulders, squeezing the abs. Those are some of the things that I feel like might have carryover to the harder variations. I'm trying not to hang passively because I know that if I hang passively here, it's less likely to have carryover to the more difficult variations. I just want this to be useful. I know that hanging passively is unlikely to help you with the more difficult variations because unless you're super strong, you can't really get away with just passively hanging when you're going for front lever. After I finished my steady state cycles on the advanced tuck front lever, I moved on to my steady state cycles for the tuck planche. I performed my 1 minute of steady state cycle hold time in 3 sets today for the tuck planche. I'll know exactly how long I held this for once I look at the footage in post-production, but either way, with this tuck planche, I was just focusing on keeping the shoulders depressed, protracted as much as I could. They felt pretty good. I was really just focusing on that shoulder blade position, as I feel like that's the biggest thing that will have carryover to the more difficult positions. And hopefully I will see a difference in some of my more difficult positions at some point in this training block or after this training block. I'll just have to wait and see. After my steady state cycle tuck planche holds, I moved on to the dumbbell curl lateral raise superset. This was actually a lot harder than I thought it would be. I was actually kind of sweating. I tried to get through all of them all in one fell swoop. In reality, it was a lot harder than I thought it would be. I think when you're performing 1-arm dumbbell exercises, you're actually using a lot of smaller stabilizer muscles that essentially prevent you from losing balance as you have a weight out to the side, whether it's in the curl or the lateral raise. And as a result, the oxygen demands for these single-arm dumbbell exercises might actually be higher than I had guessed that they would be. So I was breathing pretty hard. I got through 2 supersets without a break. Then I had to stop and drink some water. And then after that, I took care of the 3rd and 4th supersets. Overall, I think this was a good strategy. Maybe in the future, if I'm less pressured for time, I might perform right arm, left arm dumbbell curls and just do all 4 sets of my dumbbell curls and then do all 4 sets of my lateral raises. Maybe I'll try that next week and see if it generates a better overall result. This week was fine. I got some posing footage just for filler as I talk and you listen to the voiceover. You can see some of the effects effects of today's workout. Overall, it was a pretty good workout. I didn't even take any pre-workout. I just had some coffee and water. This workout, I did it at about 10 p.m. today, so it's a bit late in the day. I got it done in roughly 1 hour from start to finish, which is quite good. After the dumbbell curl to lateral raise supersets, I performed 4 sets of band tricep pushdown to band face pull. I feel as if because it's just a band exercise and I was kneeling, I didn't need to use as many small stabilizer muscles to maintain balance and prevent myself from leaning side to side. So as a result, the oxygen demands of this superset were actually much lower than the dumbbell superset before it. This superset does seem a lot more manageable. So if I did change something about this, I might split up the dumbbell curl lateral raise superset and just perform those exercises standalone and then do the band tricep pushdown band face pull as a superset. Just because it's so manageable as a superset, I wasn't running out of breath or anything. I did the first and second sets back to back, and then I moved the camera to get a better angle, and then I did the third and fourth sets. In reality, I didn't stop in between the second and third sets out of necessity due to breathing hard or water. It was just to get a different camera angle for the video. That was the full workout. It only took me about 1 hour from start to finish, including the warm-up and everything. Overall, this day felt very manageable. Hopefully it was productive. I get the feeling that it was productive, but it remains to be seen, and I will see the effects of it either at some point in this training block or after the training block when I go to test out some of my performance-based skills and strength on some of these exercises. I'll really know more information then if I'm able to hit any new PRs, whether it's on the strength skills such as the front lever and planche variations or on my weighted calisthenics. And that will be the true test of whether or not this program has been successful for me. There are other metrics such as subjective appearance, weight on the scale while maintaining roughly similar leanness or not only gaining fat. So if you're gaining muscle or looking more aesthetic, those are also victories. If your lifts are going up, if you're progressing in your strength skills, all of those are going to be key signs that your program is driving you in the right direction. This was the voiceover for day 1 of the weekly training roundup with voiceover for the week of February 7th through February 13th. And I will see you on day 2. Day 2 here. I started off day 2 with a top single on the weighted chin up with 70 pounds on the belt at a body weight of 135 pounds. This equated to roughly a top single of 205 pounds for a single on the weighted chin up. After my top single, I performed some back down sets, 3 sets of 6 repetitions with just 30 pounds on the belt, roughly 165 pounds in total. For the weighted chin-ups, my warm-ups usually go 1 set body weight. The second set is body weight with an empty dip belt. The third set will be like 25 pounds on the dip belt. The fourth set might just be with 45 pounds on the dip belt for a few reps. And then after that, I just get my top single. If I'm feeling particularly cold that day, I'll get an additional 1 or 2 sets of bodyweight chin-ups. But keep in mind that these are not burnout sets. I'm performing a very conservative sub-maximal set just to really get warmed up and pattern that movement for the bodyweight warm-ups. Usually sets of 5 or so, just enough reps to get warmed up, but not so many that it's really tiring. With the 25-pound plate on, I'm usually getting 3 or 4 reps. Once I throw that 45-pound plate on, it's usually just 2 or so, and then I get the top single. So I'm not trying to waste extra energy as I warm up, but I'm doing just enough to get warmed up to prepare myself for the top set and back down sets. I really do like performing a top set before my back down sets because I feel like the heightened neural recruitment that you get from that top single makes the back down weights feel lighter. Whereas if I was to just do volume work without the top single, the volume work tends to feel a bit heavier. That is definitely one benefit of including a top single. After the weighted chin-ups today, I moved on to weighted push-ups. Today I experimented trying to just kneel in between sets. It kind of caused rate of perceived exertion to skyrocket, which was an unintended effect. I performed the first 3 sets of my weighted push-ups today without getting up or removing the plate. The second set was a bit harder than the first. The third set was much harder than the first and second. And after that third set, I knew that I couldn't just stay there and get the fourth set. So I actually removed the plate, rested a little bit, had some water, and then did the fourth set. I basically just rested long enough for the rate of perceived exertion in the fourth set to go down a bit. The idea here is to get some good quality effective reps in on the weighted push-ups, train the chest and triceps. I'm not really trying to go to failure. I probably won't realistically test out this exercise, this training block. I do appreciate selecting exercises that are reasonable for me to safely perform on my own. There's always some degree of risk in exercising, but you want to manage that as well as you can. And for me, I find exercises like the weighted chin-up, weighted dip, that are a lot easier to load by yourself safely. After those weighted push-ups, I moved on to my steady state cycles. Today, I took care of my steady state cycles for the advanced tuck front lever in 3 sets. I performed roughly 2 sets of 20 seconds. Maybe the first set was a little bit longer than 20 seconds, second set was a little bit shorter, and the third set was really short. These went pretty well overall. I'm really just focusing on keeping the shoulder blades depressed, keeping the abs tight, trying to focus on maintaining the right alignment on these. After the steady state cycle for the advanced tuck front lever, I moved on to the steady state cycle for the tuck planche. I took care of these in 3 sets as well today, each of the sets lasting roughly 20 seconds. Not too much to say here. Also really just focusing on keeping the shoulders depressed, keeping the shoulders down, pushing hard through the hands, and just trying to keep the elbows as locked out as I can. After I finished my steady state cycle on the tuck planche, I moved on to loading pin curls. These are still going strong. I still really like them. I was a little bit paranoid about the Velcro opening up because I haven't stitched those closed yet. I will do it before the next week comes around. This exercise is still going strong. I still really like it. If you're curious to know more about it, check out my standalone video on the loading pin curl. I'll put a card right here for you. I definitely recommend trying them out and just see if you like it. If you don't like it, no big deal. And if you do like it, you found a new curling exercise to work into your exercise routine. I'm really just focusing on keeping the glutes tight, keeping the abs tight, nice neutral body position, trying to move about that elbow joint. It's fine for the elbows to come forward a little bit. I like to let the wrists bend backwards. Today, I performed them with wrist wraps on for some of the sets and not for some of the sets. I don't think I'd pull out the wrist wraps just for these, but I did use wrist wraps for other exercises earlier in the workout, so it was just convenient to keep them on. They kind of keep you warm also. I don't think they're really necessary, but they can provide a nice touch, a little bit of extra wrist support and warmth. After those loading pin curls, I performed cable tricep pushdowns. I adjusted the cable length and set up a new pulley, although you could take your existing pulley and just change where the cable is set to, but I did adjust the cable length so I can stand up when I do these cable tricep pushdowns. You might notice that last week I had to kneel to do them and it was a bit frustrating. Today I was able to perform these in a standing position, which was really nice. Single pulley cable tricep pushdowns, always much more difficult pound for pound than the double pulley cable tricep pushdowns. I'm not sure of the exact physics involved, but I know that at a gym on those dual pulley machines you can lift way more weight. On these single pulley tricep pushdowns, it is deceptively hard. I'm just doing these with a rope because that's all I have besides those 2 spongy grip handles. I do like the rope, but maybe I will still switch back and forth between the 2 spongy grips and the rope. Just 4 sets here, really trying to lock in that body position, whether you're standing up straight or prefer a bend at the hip. I like to lock in that position, keep the torso pretty still, keep the elbows where they are, and just move about that elbow joint. I do tend to prefer being bent at the hip, having that slight lean forward and moving about the elbow joint, but everybody's different. I think technically with this alignment, you can lift a little bit more weight without losing balance, especially if you are a lighter individual. If you are a really heavy individual, you can probably stand up straight without losing balance. For me, this is just how I prefer to do these. After my 4 sets of cable tricep pushdowns, I finished off the workout with bird dog, dead bug supersets. I've got some standalone videos on the bird dog and dead bug. YouTube only lets you add 5 or 6 cards per video, so I don't know if I'll link these, but you can find them on my channel. Just type in how to perform the dead bug or how to perform the bird dog respectively. Those videos will pop up. They're both short 3 to 6 minute videos solely dedicated to the technique associated with those exercises. Just a quick rundown. When I'm performing the bird dog, I like to establish a nice neutral spinal position and then really squeeze the glute as the leg goes behind me. I'm more focusing on squeezing the glute and getting the leg behind me as opposed to lifting it. The most common error that I've made in the past is just lifting that leg too high. You don't really have to lift the leg too high to get the most out of this exercise. Just reach that leg behind you, squeeze the glute while keeping the spine neutral, and you'll be happy with how this feels, I think. Although I do go a lot more in depth on that in my dedicated bird dog video. For the dead bug, really just keeping the abs tight. You can look to the side if you have a mirror or selfie mode camera. Looking to the side will really help you make sure you're at that 90-degree mark at the hip. Although if you are at 80 degrees or 100 degrees, it doesn't really matter. You're going to get basically the same training effect on the abs either way on this exercise. That brings us to the end of day 2, and I will see you on day 3. Day 3 here, this is my body weight only day where I have more of the skill focused exercises. So no weighted calisthenics on this day today, but it's body weight exercises and skill work. I started things off with push up on rings, 2 sets of 10 repetitions. This is a good medium level exercise. I like it because I feel like it gives me a good mind muscle connection for the chest. Personally, focusing on keeping the shoulders depressed here, protracting them when I'm at the top with the arms straight, and letting them retract when I'm at the bottom with the elbows bent. I performed today's workout in alternating set fashion. So not supersets, but I alternated exercises. So I performed my 2 sets of push-up on rings, and after that, I performed 2 sets of 10 repetitions on the bodyweight chin-up. Not too much to say here. Last week, I was going a bit too fast on these, and I had some wrist bending. It was a bit uncomfortable. So this week, I was focusing on maintaining a nice firm grip and trying to keep the wrists neutral. It is a lot of reps, and it's very likely that they weren't neutral the whole time, but I was just thinking about that. After my 2 sets of 10 on the bodyweight chin-ups, I moved on to 2 sets of 5 repetitions on the rings turned out palms forward ring push-up. This is one of my favorite exercises, and I think sandwiching a few sets of chin-ups in between the ring push-ups and the rings turned out push-ups led the working muscles here to feel a little bit fresher. They weren't fatigued immediately from just doing ring push-ups, but they had a little rest. So the chest, triceps had a bit of rest in between performing the ring push-up and the rings turned out push-up because I put a back exercise in there. Very similar cues in the rings turned out push-up to the regular ring push-up, keeping those shoulders depressed, allowing the shoulder blades to retract when the elbows are bent and protract when the arms are straight in that finished position. Other than that, the only difference is really that the palms are forward the whole time. If you can't yet get your palms all the way forward, you can try out a 3/4 turn where the hands are kind of diagonally forward. When I get fatigued or if I'm just too tired that week or that day, I do tend to default to a bit more of a diagonal hand position because it is easier to have the hands slightly diagonal than it is to have the palms all the way forward. Having the palms all the way forward is going to be the hardest alignment here, and a normal ring push-up is going to be the easiest alignment. You can just gradually experiment turning further and further as you progress. It doesn't have to be an all or nothing type of thing if you are attempting to get your first ring turned out push-ups. After those RTO push-ups, I performed 2 sets of half lay front lever. Honestly, today I was pretty fatigued. I might have held this for 1 second or so, but I wouldn't even really count it. My half lays were not very successful today. I'm not going to adjust the program because of this. I'm just going to try to repeat it again next week and see how that goes. If needed, I will switch to an easier variation and maybe just perform 1 set of half lays, 2 sets of straddle, and then 1 set of the frog or something. After those half lay front lever attempts, I moved on to the ring dip to rings turned out supports. These were pretty good. I reviewed the footage on the first set and I wasn't really bringing the hips and shoulders all the way through, but on the second and third set, I really went out of my way to clean that up a little bit more, take more time in that RTO support position at the top, really get into a solid rings turned out support position at the top of each repetition, and I was a lot happier with the rep quality on those second and third sets of the ring dip to rings turned out support. After that, I moved on to my straddle or frog straddle front levers. I performed 1 set of straddle, and I guess my fatigue really just prevented me from holding this. I would not call this a successful hold. I don't want to delude myself. I don't think it was just outright too hard. I think I was just poorly recovered. Straddle didn't go too well. So on the 4th set, I moved on to a frog hold. It's kind of that straddle front lever with a bent knee or a half lay with the knees apart. I may have misspoken in prior videos and said that this exercise falls in between the straddle and half lay. It does not. This exercise is actually easier than a straddle. I would place it in between the advanced tuck and the straddle. So if you're just fatigued and you can't get the straddle that day, or you are starting to get confident with the advanced tuck, I think this bent knee straddle is a great progression to place in between the advanced tuck and the straddle. Definitely try it out and it might help you bridge the gap. After After that straddle and frog front lever hold, I moved on to my band assisted planche. The first set, I kind of came crashing down. Maybe I shouldn't have even tried this today. There's an argument for just not having tried it today. I did it because I wanted to see how it would be. First set was not good at all. Second set was actually okay. The second set was better. I did notice a little bit of elbow bending in the post review of the video. After those band assisted straddle planche, I moved on to the advanced tuck front lever body row. 3 sets of 5 repetitions, and these felt pretty good today. These feel more comfortable when I put my hands a little bit closer together, so not quite shoulder width apart, but just a little bit narrower. Maybe like an inch or so narrower than shoulder width apart is really comfortable for me on these advanced tuck front lever bodyweight rows. I feel like that's the ideal hand position. At least in this workout, that seemed like the ideal hand position. It does seem like the type of exercise where you might move your hands around, some days narrower, some days wider, some days just shoulder width. But for me today, the narrower ones felt better. I'd say that if you're performing this exercise, try out a variety of different hand positions and just settle on whichever one feels best that day. Or if you're on a specific routine, you could space out the variations of the exercise throughout each training week in a manner where you're just kind of distributing the different hand positions throughout the training week. After those advanced tuck front lever body rows, I moved on to the advanced tuck planche. Just 2 sets of the advanced tuck planche because I did 2 sets of the band assist straddle earlier for a total of 4 sets of planche practice today. On days 1 and 2, it's all steady state cycles for the planche and front lever. Day 3 is the more difficult skill work and other bodyweight exercises, but no weighted calisthenics. For whatever reason, all my straight arm skill work today just felt harder than normal. All my bent arm work actually felt pretty good. I'm not quite sure why. I'm just gonna chalk it up as a fluke, maybe poor recovery or rest, just a hard weekend. I'm not gonna change anything about the program yet. I'm just going to try to repeat it again next week and get better rest and see how it goes. After those 2 sets of advanced tuck planche, I moved on and I finished my last 2 sets of bodyweight chin-ups. So instead of reducing my total number of chin-ups in this day, I decided to split it up. So I'm doing 2 sets earlier in the workout, 2 sets later in the workout. And in that manner, I think it will be a lot more reasonable to get in all 4 of those sets of bodyweight chin-ups. It's a bit overwhelming to try to perform all 4 sets all at once, but when broken up and spread throughout the workout, it is a bit more manageable. The only reason I performed my exercises in an alternate fashion today on day 3 was because it was a bit late in the day, as you might be able to see from the time on the clock, and I was just running out of energy and getting sleepy. This could be another reason for my poor performance. It's really my own fault. I should have worked out earlier in the day. So I performed all of my exercises in alternate set fashion, not supersets. I would do all my sets of a given segment, then move on and kind of do opposing muscle groups so that way I could rest a little bit less than I would otherwise. This could have also affected my performance negatively. So that's another reason why maybe some of my straight arm skill work on this day was more difficult than it had to be. Either way, this was a successful week overall. I did all 3 of my workouts. The weighted dips felt good on day 1. The weighted chin-ups felt good on day 2. And then on day 3, all my strength work and hypertrophy work felt good. Just the straight arm skill work felt a little bit off today for some reason. And that brings me to the end of this week's weekly training roundup with voiceover for the week of February 7th, 2022. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Drop your comments down below if you'd like me to go more in depth on any of these exercises, make a standalone tutorial video, or if you just have any questions or video suggestions for future content. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. And until next time, don't let anybody stop your gains.